Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Renewables Podcast. And we are here again, and we're going to get into another episode with Damon from Blakemore Renewables. And this one, if you haven't seen the first episode was a little bit more of an entry level into heat pumps and going through some of the jargon and consideration when you do design. So have a look at that one. That'll be on our meet on our YouTube and all of our normal platforms. This one's going to be a little bit more about industry bodies and some opinions on that. But before we crack on, how are things with you, Mark?
Just as they were 5 minutes ago. For those of you who are watching, this is another week, but for me and Sam, it's 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Looking forward to this one. I really enjoyed Damon taking us through an entry-level heat pump overview so I can understand better when I'm going to get one in my place. And I'm excited to see if we have similarities in the way the industry of heat pumps work as to we find in solar. This should be a good one.
Yeah. And you're okay, Damon? We'll just carry on.
Yeah, good.
Just show the camera up there. This because Mark's been holding his, and he's got some merch.
Yeah.
So these are the only two in the world.
We're not selling them.
Not yet, Mark. Yeah. So some merch incoming. But no, this is looking forward to this one because, like you said, Mark, I feel like before we've had this conversation, just through things that we've been chatting about, I think there's correlations between both two very different sectors, but quite similar in the way that there is a lot of competition and there's things happening in the industry that are positive and things that are happening in the industry that are negative, and they might be more similar than what we think at this stage. So I'm looking forward to getting into that and and hearing about it and seeing if that does match up.
Just to interject today's show, we want to speak to you about another awesome product from Proteus, and that is the Type B RCBO that they've just brought out, Sam. We saw that in person on the podcast we did with Proteus, and again, it's helping us as installers, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable how they have managed to engineer it to fit it all within a single module. I remember fitting the ones that are about 3 or 4 modules wide. How they've managed to engineer that into one module is an absolute... I don't know how they've done it, but it's fantastic that they have.
They have, and it's bi-directional as well. So again, thinking of us as installers for those PV and EV systems. And that is why we are so proud and honoured to be sponsored by Proteus on the Renewables Podcast. But let's get back to the show. And we have a shared body to start with, don't we, in MCS?
Yeah. So what are your kind of thoughts about MCS? Do you think it's one of those bodies that is necessary? Do you think they're doing a good job? What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, my relationship probably started off a bit flaky. I was quite vocal about how bad it was. There's a lot of upsides to jump through as a sole trader to get my MCS, and it was tailored more to companies like sales companies. But I was going out to these installs and seeing they were rubbish. Like, so how can these people start the MCS registered but not providing anything good? They just go in and roll about paperwork. At that point I went MCS, so I was moaning about something. I don't think you can moan about it without being part of it, because you're just moaning. So I decided to go for MCS, which were quite expensive. It cost me about £5,000 altogether with time and that, a lot of stress, getting everything in place. Since I've been MCS, it's been quite rewarding. People do look for it. You know, I've spoke to a few people since, and they are now trying to make positive changes. But it's probably been a good thing that heat pumps have got, because it's put light on how bad it were, and it were quite bad. But I think the big problem with them is not necessarily just MCS, but the people with MCS, highest reg. There's a lot of leeches out there, like shocking, like NAPI and APC offtake. Like all them people, they had responsibilities that they haven't been done. So before it gets to MCS, there's a lot of breakdown of failures. They're like the last line that you go to. I don't think, looking over there, I don't think anyone's successfully claiming the consumer code. So you pay money for absolutely nothing. I mean, Eyes now are trying to do a breakaway one, I think. People that own Eyes, because obviously, I think in January they're going to stop that consumer code being part. So now they're going to lose money. But they haven't earned that money anyway because they weren't even doing the job. So there's got to be something there, because you take, from a heat pump point of view, you're taking taxpayers' money. There's got to be accountability for that. And
I was going to ask that. Is the MCS looking after the administration of that grant?
No, that goes to Ofgem, but to access the grant, you've got to be MCS registered.
Right.
So that's why I don't know where Heist and that going to come with, because they're I think that's going to like with Octopus as well. I think they're trying to get out of actually being MCS, so then they don't unfold on MCS rules. They can start them fitting high temp P pumps and just throwing them in. So I think they might be trying to break away with that. I don't know if that were true or not, but like they did kind of with PV when they did that 6-year-old PV.
Yes, through the Octopus where Octopus said.
So I think they're trying to do it so they can get access to that grant still.
Yeah.
But I think MCS is tied into being sole supplier of that grant until 2028. So we've still got another few years of not doing that. But I'm happy with MCS now. I think now it's been broke down and I can see where things have gone. It's not been solely their fault.
Yeah.
They do deserve because they've set that set of rules and they've allowed that to happen for time. But when you actually look at it and hierarchy where you go first,
Yeah.
you go to installer, then they don't do it, then you go to your then you go to body offtake or whatever that is. Then if you can't get no look there, then you go to your consumer code.
So is it similar for our side? MCS kind of write these standards that as an installation we're supposed to sort of meet in delivering it to consumers, and then they do these annual audits where they'll come out and look at our paperwork. Primarily, that's what it seems to be more focused on. I think it is changing, and a little bit on the install. So they're doing the same stuff with you as heat pump engineers, coming out to see you, looking at all your
I actually
paperwork.
had my first year one last week. So I'm with BPHC, so I had a relationship with them through my water safe and being just a part of their body. He was a good guy. My first audit that I had with them were poor. Like we were in house for 20 minutes, and I wanted to be like technically challenged on things. So and like, but they were just bothered about where D2 discharge had gone from cylinder and where firm sets were, and then sat in van for 3 hours doing paperwork.
So you want value from that, don't you, on your side?
I was frustrated. This year he's come out, he was looking at my install, he then looked at my heat loss, checked a couple of rad sizes to make sure they correlate with my heat loss, and wanted me to show how it's set up on weather curve and that. As customer, have you got planning, so full planning, DNO application, so it was necessary what he did this year. And he was asking like questions, he looks at insulation, is it sleeve foot wall? So that definitely was a better experience because I think, I don't know how some of these companies are getting away with it. Some
I was gonna-
get rewarded. Again, I think it's down to money.
Yeah. I think it's easy to present certain bits of work and hide the stuff that you maybe won't want people looking at. With some of these bigger companies who are MCS registered or whatever, you can cherry pick a couple of jobs that you had your best team go and do, for example, full well knowing that 80% of the rest is nowhere near that
I
standard.
think the only fall down that I could see in what APHC did was allowing me to pick the job. I only picked it because I was going there for a service. But yeah,
So I'd quite like it from my side. MCS can see all our installs, contact the customer,
Yeah, they can.
make the arrangement. We'll go and do it there. I've got no problem with that. I think that would be a big change they could make that would ruffle the feathers of some of these bigger installs.
exactly.
Because all of a sudden they're thinking,
we're going this way.
these weaker teams we've got out there that we know full well about, it might be one of their jobs they're rocking up to look at next year.
Yeah, but to rock up to jobs basically without the installer there, and potentially.
Yeah, I think get in touch with customer, tell customer not to contact. Yeah, they go out and audit that job first, and then they ask you, we've been out, we've audited this job, we've got X, Y, and Z that we're not happy with. Can you go and swap that, or can you give us an explanation of why you've done that? But everything's in order, no problem. I don't think they should give you a chance to be able to go out and do it. There were a company in Sheffield, the Greener Living, it's got the worst company I've ever come across. Like, they were ridiculously bad. I put it on LinkedIn and they were shocking, and I'd been telling them about it, and we were just letting them go, and they folded because they were going to get found out and going to have meant to go back. This one gentleman, I'd given him a quote of 17,000 to do what I'd done. Offtake then sent a message saying, no, we can't roll out, they've gone bankrupt. Then I sent a email saying, yeah, we can't roll out, they filed the finger. So now he's stuck with a system that's... So where did he go from that?
We see the same in solar with First for Solar, who I've mentioned, because that's the only one I'm aware of in my short window of time. With consumers who've had exactly the same thing. Installs done that aren't right, they've then had it re-quoted to put right by a reputable installer. Supposedly that's what we are. And then, like the Heiss world of things and Rec, not helping at all, just passing people pillar to post basically. Oh, you need to speak to MCS, you need to speak to the NIC, you know, and you need to... and no one actually helping the consumer.
Exactly.
No one down to the actual nub of the problem, which is that install.
They come out as consumer protection. There's no protection for the consumer at all. Another one that I'd been to, we'd had it was brand new build, absolutely shocking install. It took offtake a year to get out to it. In that time, it asked me to try and make it better. But we're trying things. I ended up getting 3 times just because I couldn't improve it because it would have bad, which then cost me nothing. It shouldn't cost me to put someone else's system, right?
No.
They went out after a year and said, "Oh, we can't do anything because you had alterations at system." You're like, it's took you a year to come out because installer weren't replying to emails. So if you don't reply to emails, it don't matter.
So that was off tech.
Off tech.
So what's their is that like the
I always say the competent person scheme.
right?
So
Okay.
CPS, so you have to register with them
Right.
and they'll audit you, and then for MCS.
So they're like our NAPIT.
They do it as well.
see,
Or not.
all that.
So,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they do it as well. And
Right.
I think all the plumbing one that do it is APHC. So when they go out, NAPIT and other ones, they're more paperwork intense because they don't really have any plumbing.
I think for me, because I get asked, literally, I did a live out here just before I came in, and people were asking me about if I think that MCS is worth having, and do I think it's going to be around? And I think it is. I think it is. There needs to be something there to stop it being the complete Wild West. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that they are doing an absolutely amazing job. There's definitely room for improvement in that through focusing maybe slightly less on paperwork, that you can get template forms and fudge. You can't fudge like the on-site stuff if you have like the spot checks and the installs where they go out and they're maybe not giving you an option. You say, we are going out to Mrs. Smith's house kind of thing. You need to just arrange with it because she's received a £7,500 grant. She needs to be able to give us access to that, written into the grant to say, look, you get this £7,500, you get this 0% VAT, but we can do a spot check of your installation because we have partially paid for it as taxpayer.
I think most consumers would be happy with someone coming to check the quality of the job they've had anyway. If you just like saying, we audit a select group of our installers every year. Your job might come up in that, but it's only in your interest because if it's not good, it gets put right and you don't pay for it.
I mean, when I went MCS with solar and it was terrifying, it was really hard to get your first job. They've changed MCS for solar now a little bit, where I think you can get kind of pre-approved, pending an investigate, like pending an actual site visit. Whereas when I did it, you had to have a job to actually get MCS kind of approved beforehand. So you had to basically tell a customer that you weren't MCS, but you were going to get MCS. And I was terrified because I was like, no one's going to hire me to do it because they're like, this guy doesn't know anything about this solar. But then when I actually had, and I'm like manned up and actually decided to talk to a customer about this, I said, look, I'm not MCS, but I'm getting MCS. So it means that this install would have to be audited by them. He was like, oh, great. That's awesome. I get the industry, like the industry heavies in to actually make sure you've done a good job. And I was like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty good. They're getting like a second pair of eyes who I'm accountable to. Like if they tell me I have to do something different, I have to do something different. So he was actually really happy about that inspection. So I think it's more probably driven from installers not wanting someone nosing around on how they've done their pipe work or their cabling and things, more so than the actual customers.
Yeah, we had a very supportive mother-in-law who we're grateful for trusting her grandsons to go up on the roof and put a solar system on. But it's an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that comes back to what you said at the beginning, Damon, and the kind of the barrier, I suppose, of MCS to installers. You were saying about the bigger companies who can look after all the paperwork. They've got some budget to spend $5,000 on getting accreditation. But for a small sole trader going week to week, $5,000's a lot of money, and it's the time. So do you think there's like a barrier there for good installers, good gas fitters who would thrive in the renewable space with heat pumps, who just aren't even thinking about it? Cost of that cost? Is that something?
Yeah, 100%. That is a big barrier. People don't want to do paperwork, they don't want to do tag. They just want to go and fit and do that. They don't really want to do design and that. That's why a lot of umbrellas come in. But then majority of umbrellas out there would touch something, so it's just there for money. You know, you look at biggest umbrellas in country and they're rubbish. You know, like...
So when you're saying umbrellas, is that like a company that registered with MCS and then subs jobs out?
Yeah, subs them out. So same design, same heat pumps, use it cheaper end of heat pumps. Just go in, smash them in, just go pay, install like two grand. I'm actually looking at starting my own umbrella, which hopefully by end of October, just for installers that want to do it but don't want to do paperwork side, because I'm more or less set up now to do that. So they've come with me in the projects, just be a set fee, and then they can ELAS if they want, they can design or I can help with that. So as like you do with that training, I want to try and get something back and help, because there's a lot of people out there that do want to make that transition and go, but they're scared of that jump. And I've seen how frustrating and how stressful it is to be in that position. You know, some nights till 3 o'clock trying to do stuff, then getting up 7 straight to work and doing the same again, coming in and doing paperwork. It's not a nice place to be.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that is probably important to have within the MCS scope, but is it really life and death if your complaint procedure isn't using the exact form that they want you to? And like all these like things that you kind of worry about during your MCS inspection, and this stuff that you like, the paperwork is important. And from like the last podcast that we did with you about the whole design side of things, surely that is where they should be drilling into, not, you know, can you show us the last complaint you had and how you dealt with it? It's like, yeah, I can, but can we then focus on some of the real, like, important...
I think that's what they're doing, they're making it more site-based and more technical, like they did. They're looking for sleeving for a wall now, they're looking for insulation done properly, and other stuff. I think, so, heat pumps had been a big thing for them. So they've been out, they were rare as such domestically, even though it should have been dealt with better. I think how they changing to, since it's been highlighted that they're rubbish, to what they actually making some changes now in what, like, Bone's been like 18 months, 2 years maybe, not even that. They're probably doing this over the past 18 months, so that's quite quick to start making.
Yeah, it is in
changes.
fairness.
It's nice to see that they're actually doing that, rather than just sitting back. So I think you've got to take some positives out, so we can see where it goes. It couldn't be any worse.
No.
I think there's always like...
I mean, that's it. We complain as installers, don't we, about the things that are out there, because we see the problems. And if no one's listening to us, that's really frustrating, and those organisations should be rightly panned. But one that's listening and saying, well, actually, okay, we'll hear your side of that argument and we'll make some structural changes in what we're doing. You've got to support that, haven't you, I think, having complained, to give them the benefit of the doubt, see what they come forward with. And then looking at MCS from afar, they're an organisation that's built on technical documentation standards. And maybe when they're starting doing this audit process, they're applying that out in the field, when really it's a totally different beast, because you're looking more at skills, what people can actually do productively in someone's home, rather than have they got the QMS manual in the drawer it should be in, and have they recorded every scaffolder's telephone number that they've ever used. You know, it's a different world, isn't it, I think?
I think from equal point of view as well, like you're using taxpayers' money as well. So they've got a companies have got to have a certain thing about them to be able to do that. Rather, if you just open it up to anyone, it'd be a free for all. You know, I think that's why we're like with PV and like what Odds was doing, it would have just been crazy. So in my language, so there's got to be accountability. Because if that goes wrong, then they're coming back to MCS, so you can see. So there has got to be certain things, but I think they were just too heavily focused on that. And that's probably just because they've come from a place where it's not been needed that much. You know, now they're going in every house or wanting in that big push. They're not highlighting problems that weren't highlighted before.
I think your point about the scaling up and learning from, like, it's very easy for the government to introduce a new incentive for people to have heat pumps, but then all the other little things below that then have to scale up to meet that. And you had that it was like green grant, or there was something that they released,
Green Deal, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, so, and it was like, but they were going to put like billions of pounds into this, and then it didn't work after like 6 months, so they scrapped it. And you're like, all these companies have started to like get their cogs going to like hire people, train people. You can't just cut that after 6 months. And with like MCS, if they've gone from doing a couple of audits a year on heat pumps to suddenly having to do hundreds, they need the people, they need the processes, they need to they need time to kind of sound out what installers are asking them to look at, because you're kind of in two places when you get an audit. One, you want it to be all right, you want it to go well. And so an easy audit is nice because you've passed it and it's one less thing to worry about. But the other side of that is if it's a really easy audit and they don't look at anything, you're like, how many other people am I competing with that haven't done a good install, that they're just going in and having a look at? So there's all of that as well that you kind of factor in and go, they need to be tighter on the install side, but they then need people that know what to look for, which is training and time and experience. So they can be criticised, and that's fair because that's where they'll learn from and hopefully adapt. But I think what they need to be really held to is if they do adapt over time, not the initial criticism.
If MCS want to, they can be the gatekeepers that actually helps smaller contractors, because there's energy retailers out there at the minute who are pushing to not have to use MCS, basically become a kind of monopoly of their own, where they look after swapping the service fuse, speaking about PV, they can negotiate contracts with the consumers, and absolutely nobody is checking what they do.
How many legs has this company got?
The energy retailers are all right in solar, but I think in the heat pump world of things, it's primarily Octopus.
Yeah, it does frustrate me a bit with that, because I think there could have been something so good and set at a standard, and they've just took the easy option out. You know, they come on Twitter a couple of years ago, and there were a lady worked from Cloud, and she was like, "We do it. You need to trim fat. Small medium private businesses were charging too much. Sole traders were charging too much. Please do this, trim fat off jobs." You look at the installs, they aren't trimming no fat. Like, it's quality products, it's quality installation. You know, just like, they're not great, they're not designed great. They're not doing a system for that house. They're making their system fit your house fit their system.
This is Octopus installs. Right?
Yeah, so you can look at them like the bases outside, they're not doing it, just plonking them on soil. They're putting valves and whatnot outside, they're not lagging properly. They're designing just to a standard temperature. I've been in one today to go in, his heat loss was 3 kilowatt to what mine were. Saying with some radiators that fit into one, design temperatures down lower just to make radiators fit. You look at the DNO applications that I've seen, and like 59 amps, I'm getting like 6. I went to one, it was 91, theirs were 59 because under 60 amps.
Yeah,
it's
the default figure.
yeah, they can't say anything.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of them, and I've seen them. They're putting in consumer units outside as well, aren't they? On certain jobs.
And that's a hot one.
So everything they're doing is not trimming fat; it's being quality. You know, so they're already trying to de-skill that. There's the new heat pump that's come out. You look at performance on that. Apart from it looking terrible, like a grip bin, you look at performance on that, and it's already like at same temperatures to other power pumps, like a full nearly 1 COP lower.
Right.
You know, and they're trying to push as an I10P pump. I don't even think it meets MCS standards for it. You know, and for a company that's...
So that's an Octopus product that they're...
Yeah, they're only red heat pumps.
Okay.
It's like top mounted fan.
Right.
It just looks like a grip bin, but it's purple.
Right.
I think there's an electrician guy that's just had like EV nick something.
Oh,
Just plonked it.
he's not an electrician, he's a car salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. But you've probably got the Octopus in all these fanatics that they can't say how bad about it. Like, oh, it's best thing and you're getting it free and all this bit. They're just masking poor performance with tariffs. That's all they're doing. Problem is then if you ever leave them, you're either tied in with them. And thing is, they're selling electric and then giving you something that's using more electric than it should.
I never thought of it about that.
Yeah.
Like that before.
The lower the cop, the better for me.
And a bit at a lower rate. So lifespan on compressors on and off all time, you know, and units stressing out. They wanting to overload at your house at certain times where that causes 6, which just looks like a stupid tariff to me. Like, for me, energy waste is energy wastage. They put persecuted like gas engineers fitting, not condensing boilers. But then they'll go and fit an heat pump that you could achieve so much, but they take it easy way and doing this. So from a consumer point of view, as an electrical company, I think you've got to give them the props. I think the best customer service, how to deal with things, what they've done with tariff, they've changed the market. So you've always got to give people the props where they got them. Hands down.
They're an amazing energy retailer.
Unbelievable.
From an installation point of view, it's just got to be about making money because they've took easy way out. They might say it's decarbonising, but I don't think it's still.
It's that-
like I said, they could have been so good.
It's that value conversation, isn't it? You're saying the value is trimming the fat, so Damon, Sam and Mark are living on the breadline, not making money to grow their businesses and have successful renewables companies supporting consumers. It's making them cheap, because value is consumers get cheap, rather than consumers getting systems that serve them best from renewables experts. It's so frustrating, because it shouldn't be like that. And the brand like Octopus, because they are such a good energy retailer, just speaking uniquely about them, they're well respected, aren't they? So they tell the consumer something, they're going to take that at face value. So it's a really difficult conversation for us to then have without sounding really bitter. And in the solar side of things, you know, there's Eon, there's British Gas, that they're all doing it and the same way.
The rough and heat pumps for £500, they're not doing that anymore just because it's not sustainable. They must be working at a loss with them, and they're in and out. And it just like they could have been so much, and it just gone for that. And especially with how big they are and how much money, it's got to be shareable. There's stuff that one money to pay back when it does this.
It's difficult because, you know, there's an ulterior motive to them getting people on a solar, a battery system, a EV charger, a heat pump. It isn't about the install for them. It's about keeping that customer on their energy
5-year tariff.
So for us as installers, we make our money on doing an installation, that referral to their brother, to their business, to their friend, to whatever. It's all about the install for us. For energy companies, and that goes beyond Octopus, but energy companies, it's about trying to keep that customer on their energy tariff. And so then, does the quality matter as much? Because you've really, you know, that customer's maybe paying that installation off over the next 5 years, which means they've got a guaranteed customer there for 5 years. And it's not nice to see that, because as technical electricians, as plumbing heating engineers, as heat pump installers, as solar installers, you pride yourself on your quality of workmanship, your technical knowledge and everything else. When you see it not being done by others that you've lost jobs to, you think you don't realise that customer doesn't probably fully realise what they've given up for by not using you or another company that really does pride themselves on the workmanship and the design and everything else, to have basically a grit bin outside that's not been designed for their property. Like I say, there's such potential there, and whether or not it's just because they're just starting to do it and it all gets improved, if you're on the optimistic side, or if you're on the other side of that and you think that they end up getting called out for it over a period of a few years when things really do start going wrong. On the solar side, it takes a year or two for the roof to leak. It takes a year or two for that battery to fall off the wall, for that consumer unit that's outside to leak. These things have to take time for the bad feeling around that company to really set in. And now we've got social media. As soon as that starts, it will light very quickly. But it just takes a lot of time for those problems to start coming out of the woodwork.
It does, and like the default response to that is, well, you're just bitter that Octopus are doing this, and that's the response we get. But I think there's enough people out there now from the installation side of things, in the heat pump side of it, and in the renewables PV side, where there's lots of voices saying these things, because we're all seeing the result of it more quickly, if you like, than stuff going wrong because of social media. I think you maybe see a post that goes up of a heat pump that's been done by a big heat pump company or Octopus, whoever, and you think, well, I know that ain't right. But the customer's not going to know that until they've been through the first or second winter. So
it takes that time.
Then they're just like I say, they come out and said trimming the fat and like making people think we were overcharging and doing that were a big thing. And then just for them to come out then with state of what their installs are like, and then people always refer to the one that's on Open Energy Money that's doing well. It's an Octopus install, but Geek, Simon had to go out. It was performing poorly, now it's near top. So it's their install, but it's not how they left it. It's doing well now because someone else had to go out. Why? What we found is people having Octopus installs, then ringing people like us to go out to improve that install because they were getting them that cheap.
We get that with EV as well, where we've put a PV system in, battery storage, and then they'll have had an EV charger installed by an energy retailer, but it's not working right with the system they've got, and all of a sudden your phone starts ringing as the PV solar battery storage, and it becomes your problem. You're like, well, no, if I'd done that job for you, installing the EV charger in the way you want it to work, I would have been more expensive than that. You're not having the free consultation of me now coming out, putting that right. You know, that's the difference in service you're getting.
I've got one on my WhatsApp at the minute that we priced to an EV, and we were, I think, £500 more, and they went with a cheaper option, and now my WhatsApp's blowing up because the charger isn't working with our solar and battery system. I'm like, have a chat to them, see what they can do. You know, as part of that price, it's the same with you. There's the hardware, so in that case, there's there's the EV charger, there's the cable, there's the screws and plugs and all the rest of it. That is probably a fairly similar cost between all companies. But it's the thing that's hard to quantify is the technical knowledge behind it. Yeah. And in the heat pump world, it'd be exactly the same, where they're paying for you to install that type of heat pump, that brand, that pipe work, this, that, and the other. But they're also paying for your service, your design, and everything else. And like we mentioned in the other podcast, it's from what we learned from you is really the design and the commissioning is the most important part. But if a big energy retailer or a big company is literally just focusing on that middle part and not really bothering with the design or the commissioning, just throwing them in as fast as possible, then we've already seen from our conversation last time, they'll fall off a cliff because it's the commissioning which relies on the design being done correctly. Yeah. So it's worrying, and that's why they get a bad name after that, because so many people they're not working.
It really is. It's such a good point that I never thought of it like that, Sam. But they are missing off those two big steps, and they're two of the most important and technically required. You need the most technical competence to do those bits, I would say.
And that's where they're cheaper, because they're not doing that bit and that bit. Like you say, I could design and I could do first and last bit and give somebody that middle bit to do, as long as they're following that plan, it would work right. If you're not doing that and just getting someone middle bit, not knowing where they're starting from or finishing up, where they're going, you're just gonna get lost. That's the big thing, and that's where most of the cost goes, because you need skill. You need skill to install. Don't get me wrong, but you need a different skill. To do a design bit and experience. With experience comes you've been round. It's your cost. You build your business on your experience. People come for you for that experience and your knowledge. You don't get your knowledge without experience.
So we need MCS to hold that line for me. Octopus and energy retailers shouldn't be allowed to be outside of that. I think that needs government to stop from happening.
For me, I don't think as an energy company you should be able to be selling energy product. Like you should be fitting something that you're selling. So
that was the point that you said 5-10 minutes ago, that the penny dropped there.
It's like
installing an inefficient product.
Because you're selling and you're masking them with. It don't matter if you're masking them, because you're probably spending the same amount as you would. Now you're costing a better performing heat pump.
But the rub with all of this is that a big company like Octopus most probably knows, and again I would keep referring to Octopus, and this isn't a witch hunt for them, or it isn't from where I'm sitting, is that any barriers that are put by MCS or any other bodies that slow the rollout of this equipment, Octopus are big enough and firm enough to go to government and say, look, MCS are stopping us. We could roll out thousands more installs a year, saving this much carbon, making sure we meet your carbon targets, but MCS are stopping us. They're stopping you because it needs to be done fairly, and there can't be a monopoly.
I think if you lost that, they would literally just be the item, because every time they market that heat pump, it's been as an item heat pump. When you're looking at the MCS database of the coefficient performance at that, you're like 2.4, 2.5 at top end.
So the problem with a high temp heat pump is that you've not got that performance, that efficiency difference, because we're focusing on the COP here between, if you've got a high temp heat pump,
you're working harder. You've got a big gap between your flow temperature.
But the lower the flow temperature that you can get in that house,
you don't have to work.
You're not working as hard, so you're effectively getting
like
more out.
boiling like a pan of water. You know, like you're not using it as
And
much. Such is it? It'd be the bigger pan.
Yeah.
The argument of masking that with a good energy tariff that kind of covers that off, because they could do that, couldn't they? Say, we know a heat pump's not as efficient, but we'll give you a discount on whatever we're thinking. But that doesn't tie in with a net zero argument, because you're using more energy to achieve the same objective.
Which is my, going back, is where they were saying, like, where they literally persecute gas engineers for fitting non-condensing condensing boilers. To me, energy wasted and wasted, whether that's free energy, whether you're paying for that energy. If you can achieve this with a product, why are you always settling for that and using more energy?
Yeah.
When it's shown, like an update on it, that you can get all this performance.
Yeah.
So why are you settling for less when it's not that much?
Yeah.
Better, because you can usually get a lot better performance just by setting them up right.
Even if the argument was, well, the grid's green overnight, so we're just using it. Doesn't matter, because somebody else could use that energy, that you could set your system up properly to get a cop or a scop, whatever it is, at 3.5, 4, instead of 2, whatever it is.
Yeah, which is nice for people that think that, because that's always my argument with it, even though it's you're using it. Like, that's like overheating houses during when there's low usage periods, you know, when it's cheaper. It's still waste. You don't need that energy at that point. So why are you using more energy when you don't need that? Surely we should only be using what we need.
Yeah.
Without side demand or low demand. It's, using an heat pump like that is different to using, it's different to using your dishwasher at low periods. If you're heating your house to set 22, 23 degrees at the time of low period, why do you want that?
And I bet the conversation you just said, Sam, about government and energy retailers, I bet those are happening. They're slowing down our rollout, these companies holding up the rollout of net zero and stuff. And that's the ear of government hearing it, when the counter argument to that is, well, actually, they're focusing on net zero by getting the best efficiency for consumers out of the equipment that's been installed to an appropriate standard. And it's who's pushing that message back at the people who have the levers of power in their hands.
Yeah, it's, you know, all of this, none of us have any kind of insight into if this is actually happening, but this is all hypothetical. But you can see the danger of the monopoly, where if you have one company that offers one heat pump or one solar system or one battery system, that completely removes any competition in the market or any variety in the market. I'm sure you go to properties and go, this system will probably work better for you because of how you want it to work, the heat loss here and this, that and the other. If you've just got one company that goes, we've got our own heat pump, that'll go into everywhere, the technical parameters around that heat pump or that battery or that solar PV system or whatever might not suit that house better than a different system. But if you've got one company that is offering basically 2 or 3 products, what about all the other 50 out there that might be better for that consumer and that property? If you've got a company that's got just a complete monopoly over that, then ultimately it's the customer that's losing out, because they don't have that range of other products to...
Yeah, and that's where there's, as I told you, you can't do that when I'm doing a job. I've got to do it right. I ain't got that luxury of being able to mask it with Terry. You know, I can't go out and, have this, it's going to run crap, but what I'll do is I'll let you just have cheap electric. Because basically that's what's happening. Like, and it's not hard to see that.
And when you're out in the marketplace of things and companies are out there trimming the fat and customers are getting those proposals and your work diary starts to dry up and you need to keep busy, you can understand why installers start thinking, well, where am I going to trim some of this fat? Because otherwise I'm not going to work. And all of a sudden they're taking a day out of the job, or they're maybe not using a certain reliable bit of equipment they know, because they can save 500 quid putting something cheaper in that they know is going to go wrong faster. But they're trying to compete at that level. It's so easy to fall into those pitfalls, trying to survive.
Happening with boiler industry. All of a sudden, just cheaper, and then you're going to compete. People are going in fitting two combis a day, 4 hours each. Manufacturers then will be in longer warranties, 10, 15 years coming out. Water quality is bad because you're on flush state. Why don't you want to pay for a flush? But they shouldn't be fitting that, They just drive market price down, so then they can take even more, and then you're having to sub to them.
Yeah,
it's you can just see it happening.
There's a lot of synergies.
It is the solar industry in a nutshell, isn't it? That, it's so interesting hearing how similar it all is and how interwoven it all is with the big players out there. And because I saw some stuff around do you think that's I saw a lot of stuff around the Heat Geek side of things and the Octopus side of things, and is that something to do with the design side of things? Like you mentioned about potentially Octopus not having the front end and the back end. I don't fully understand what that partnership is.
I think, I didn't really. I asked Adam about it. He done a video recently about it. It's what it is. So, Octopus, you've got to fit certain criteria for Octopus to have any installed. They're basically ones you don't do. They're going to be passing to eGeek. So if you go eGeek, it's literally just lead generation or anything. They're just a handful of jobs that they can't do. They'll pass. And then the install you get from eGeek will be an eGeek install. It'll have nothing to do with Octopus. But yeah, you could see how possibly people would get stuff mixed up, and then their installs aren't that great. So it's
well, that's it. From looking from afar, not knowing very little about the heat pump world of things, Heat Geek's a brand that I recognise associated with quality.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And you as an installer must be proud to be one of their elite installers, and then maybe seeing that link up with something that maybe isn't, regardless of what that arrangement is, something that hasn't got maybe that reputation. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was dubious about it at first. I think it's... I think Octopus would need that more than eGeek need Octopus, in my opinion. And, eGeek name is what Adam was built. Like him or love him, what he's done, probably some of the industry be missing. Apart from Kimbo doing his course, probably them two's changed the eating industry. You've got to give him his props for that. It's changed everything around. People and our, even from consumer point of view, for what he's done. So,
so these referrals similar to what we have in the solar space, where it's maybe a slate roof or an east-west roof or whatever. They don't touch as an energy retailer. They're passing that on to other companies. Is it the same with heat pumps, where it's real difficult install?
Yeah. So if we get a job, I wouldn't know it'd come from Octopus. It's just going to be back end. I think just passing out. Well, we've got these jobs, like, I don't know, big ones might be 20 kilowatt, might need a cascade, or might need bigger heat pumps, because they only fit a specific size heat pumps. If they do Dakin and then no one, so unless it fits in their criteria, then they'll just, I think they were just saying we can't do it. Now eGeek taking them through a channel, which is going to generate more leads for them. Yeah, I mean, because I think now they've got about 60 something installers already on platform, so that's growing. And I think we could the quality installs, like they always said, you don't have to be, how did they say it? You don't have to be the best installer to be an eGeek, but to be an eGeek, you've got to be best, So they do promote quality.
Wouldn't have, what baffles me about the partnership is, wouldn't the installs that Octopus didn't want to take on probably come down that channel somewhere anyway? Like if Octopus said we only do, like in solar, I'm pretty sure they only do like south facing roofs. They don't do east west and slate and other things. If they have that policy, a similar policy with heat pumps, and they go, sorry Mrs. Smith, you require a big heat pump that we don't do, so you need to find another installer. Wouldn't that have just naturally come through to Heat Geek and other reputable bodies anyway? There must be, I wonder if, I don't know the commercial kind of setup between that, but there must be some reason why they felt like they had to guide customers to Heat Geek.
Yeah, there's probably something there.
Maybe the energy tariff side of things. They can still strike that arrangement, can't they? I suppose.
We Heat Geek have got something with an energy provider, but that's Riovo. I don't think.
Okay.
He was in Cozy 6.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. No, I don't think that's what.
I mean, you can see it too.
We'll design them to run. But the thing with Geek is you'll get them. They'll guarantee you a minimum scope. So when you go design it, they look after the system. So if they say you're free scope 3.9, they'll look over that over a 12-month period. They'll guarantee that. It's like a lifetime guarantee as such that you get with them.
Yeah.
So as long as you aren't messed around with controllers and that, but they can see everything now. It's settings, what they're doing with it.
If they've been meddling.
Yeah. So if that is way off, they will put it right, and that's something. So that's where there's going to be a big difference. There's going to be no drop in quality. I think I don't know what exactly.
You must be hoping that there's a lot of customers that don't fall into the standard install. And if you're not a big fan of the Octopus installs, you must be hoping that there's a lot of installs that get pushed over to the HeatGeek side if you've got a lot more faith on that side.
Yeah, there's let's say they're onboarding quite a lot, and you've got to have a certain standard. So there'll be certain people that go out and look at your work. They'll check your work as well. So they get some of those installers to go out and check engineers' works.
Right.
They need to go out and audit them and get them going if there's any issues. They put it right.
Yeah.
Teach them.
Good gatekeeping.
Yeah, that's it. And then they'll do the same and pass it. So in the end, they'll build this network. The installers of being able to like empower others and then learn from each other. The big thing about EG from my point of view is how much you can learn from other engineers. You can tap into all that knowledge of other people, which has been quite like peer-to-peer, which is there's quite big, like, which has been good.
Yeah, I mean, the Heat Geek stuff I see just as a layman. I know nothing about any of what is involved technically, but it looks really good. And there's obviously a feel-good factor around that brand as well. I just wondered, when I was talking about the energy retailer side of things, I wonder if the arrangement with Octopus is, well, we'll pass that to you for your installers, but we're going to keep this customer now with our tariff because we can still give them an install. I didn't know if that was something that's maybe going on in the background. So I don't know, but yeah, the other side of that is, I think that's good. We could look at it positively that, you know, these jobs have been referred over, be them PV or heat pumps, and Octopus are doing that for free, passing them out to others. But you're also helping them satisfy that thirst and that demand while you know in the background their install crews are going like this. And how long till they say, well, thanks very much, guys, but we don't need you to do that anymore. We're going to take that back into our ecosystem. So
it's risky, isn't it? And I don't. None of us really know what's going to happen. We can moan or we can praise, but we don't know what's going to happen until we get further down the road with all this. But you mentioned there was an OVO tariff with HeatGeek, or is
so I think it was created with HeatGeek. It was open to valent boilers.
Right
now I think they've opened it up to anyone that's got a valent boiler, and also if you've got a Viessmann boiler. What am I not heat pump? So if you've got an Airfirm plus a valent one, if you've got an HeatGeek install, it'll be a valent one, or if you've got a Viessmann with a cab, you can open up to that. So they'll register how many kilowatt hours you're actually using on your heat pump, and they'll charge you 15p that energy just for the heat pump. So if you're on, what is it now, about 26, 27p, you're already nearly half in just your energy usage for that. So it's actually a point of use tariff. So
that's interesting.
Just for that, which is good. I don't know what the prices are for rest of electric, rest of year, but you can literally dial in to that tariff now with that.
That's really interesting. I never knew you could do that.
We Geek referrals as well. So if you go through OVO, they'll refer you to Geek as for an installation.
Because in terms of renewables, the default energy retailer of choice is Octopus. They've marketed that brilliantly. They do a really good job of it, and it seems like there wasn't really anyone competing with them. But OVO sound like maybe they will, and maybe some competition in that space might sharpen their pencil in other areas away from installs. The worry I have is that once the likes of the real big energy players see the success that Octopus are maybe having building that secure base of consumers, they might suddenly decide, well, we're going to ramp up our heat pump installs, and all of a sudden British Gas, E.ON, EDF, all the rest of those guys and girls are like, well, we're coming in too.
EDF are big. I think they team with CB in. I think they're an umbrella scheme. I think they're like one of the biggest in country. Their installs are,
this is it.
Most of like we said, the big players are all like that. And it's not hard to see. Like, it's just making money for. There's nothing. There's no and product. I think that was a good thing about OVO, where it weren't just a mass market one. They actually went to EGEEK and saw how efficient EGEEK systems were. So they're like, look, we're going to reward you for fitting these systems. So anyone that's had an EGEEK installation, we'll give them 15p electric because we know it's running well. That's a third party manufacturer going to EGEEK saying, look, we'll offer this because you're fitting them well. Like, you should be rewarded for a good
the efficiency's there for net zero.
We're not masking poor performance with this. We're blessing good performance and making them even have lower bills, even lower. So I can make good performance heat pump cheaper electric.
Yeah.
So they're rewarding you for doing that. So
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, my personal opinion is it's a huge travesty that all these other companies, these energy companies, haven't challenged over with different tariffs, flexible tariffs. Like, surely if one energy company can do it, why aren't the big players that have been around for generations going, I'll tell you what, well, let's start offering an EV tariff that is somewhere near the same as what Octopus are doing. They've just left them to it. And again, that comes back to my monopoly point. They've been left to do this. And I'm like, the best way to check them is to compete with them. And surely the likes of these huge energy companies like British Gas, EDF, and all the rest of them, surely they could just go like that and come up with, tariffs to compete with Octopus head-to-head and actually introduce some competition for people that want to be on that side of the tariff because they've got EVs, solar, battery, heat pump. Yeah. I can't believe that they've just been left to monopolise it.
The only issue I see with their tariff is if and what people are looking at is if you get an install with it's running poorly, you get that heat pump. When you come out of that tariff or that tariff changes at any point, because you've got no guarantee that you're having a heat pump, you're getting that. Where do you go? Because suddenly you go into another tariff what's more expensive, your heat pump's running poorly, your bills are this is what no one's looking at.
Yeah.
Outside of that tariff, your heat pump system's not good.
Yeah.
Once that's gone, there's no mask on that. It's going to be expensive to run.
Yeah, so
unless the normal energy price at that point's come way down. I think that's what might be a gamble on.
I think you're dead right.
Gamble.
4 years, 4 years from now, when the big energy retailers are in that game, because they will be, I'm sure they will be, all of a sudden Octopus or whoever don't have such flexibility in the tariffs they can offer, and that heat pump tariff that's masking poor performance is suddenly, sorry, can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And you're paying full market rates. I think the reason the big energy retailers aren't yet doing it is they've got people in their ecosystem who've been there decades. They don't move around very much, and they know they can charge them what they charge them without making too much effort. And in fairness to Octopus, they've ruffled that space big time and really start to throw the cat amongst the pigeons. And I think they've led to the change that's coming, where those energy retailers will have to adapt their pricing models to be more flexible, unlike the Octopus Novo tariffs. So we'll see that.
I think looking like in 10 years when we're sat here, Mark, and we're still doing this podcast, and we look back over how the energy market has changed, I think looking back, and do you remember the Octopus tariffs and how much they changed the industry? They have been nothing but, in that section of the industry, the energy tariff section, they've been nothing but an unbelievable force for showing everybody how different and how flexible the energy tariff is. Like, for most homeowners, they'll be paying 25 to 30p for the electricity per kilowatt hour, and 24/7. They won't realise that you can have different tariffs, and probably don't realise that the cost of electricity does change wholesale, like when the wind blows, when the sun shines, or when it doesn't. And I feel like Octopus coming in and showing everyone that kind of lifts the cover on the electrical and sort of the energy industry. But like I mentioned, I think the biggest travesty is that these other companies haven't kind of tilted to actually going, I think, well, let's introduce one that is about the same. We've got broad shoulders. We can handle it, even a bit of a loss. Let's just check this other company that have got the ability to run away with this part of the market, which is the progressive part of the market, where businesses and homeowners are looking to decarbonise. There's all these government targets, and all these other energy companies are just kind of leaving them to it. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And I think, maybe in fairness to Octopus, they've done such a groundbreaking change in the energy retailing side of things. They may be trying to apply that into the install side of things, thinking, well, we can do it here as well. We can get the fat trimmed. And they don't realise the upset and difficulty they're causing to installers who've been doing those jobs for quite a long time. And we're seeing the issues of the fat being trimmed when we know it's not right. Maybe there's an element of ignorance there rather than something that's deliberate. I don't know. So I wouldn't think, based on the stuff you see them doing in the energy market, they would be deliberate. But when you see that frustration, I'm speaking as an installer personally about all energy companies, I find it really frustrating that you're not pitching on the same fair playing field. And we're not the only ones who think that, not by a long shot. I wonder if they know, if they're aware.
Well, it's when they make out that they're giving you the same job for cheaper. When in fact it's not actually the same job.
No.
It's on paper, it's the same, but the product that they're giving you, the end product, the aftercare, all that's all missing. You know, that's where they're cutting the costs. Yeah, it is. You're not getting what that. So
I'm a massive believer that, because ultimately it comes down to, the workmanship level comes down to the people on site. Like, if they want to do it a certain way, then they have the ability to do it that way. But I feel like there's kind of like usually three elements to a job not being completed correctly. I feel like it's every tradesperson, I feel like, wants to do a good job and wants to be proud of it. The big elements of that usually are cost. There's not enough money in the job for them to do it right. Training, they don't understand how to do it right. And time, they've not been given enough time to do it right. And I feel like if you can get those three boxes ticked, you don't necessarily have to overly incentivize people to do a good job, because people that are hands-on usually have some sort of pride in standing back and going, oh, I've absolutely nailed that. But if you don't get those right, I feel like you end up with people that are very stressed that just end up switching off to quality.
And again, that's when you're coming into, if you're like a business like us, that's where you'll price and you'll give yourself enough time.
Absolutely.
What you're talking about there is kind of like these big companies taking that work for less money, then giving it to somebody as a contractor, not giving them enough time, not giving them enough money, but then taking that market from them so they can't get that job.
Yeah.
That's the problem in a nutshell.
Yeah,
That's it.
And that happened with gas boilers, with servicing. It's trying to happen same with heat pump, trying to take market and give you just a fixed price for doing it in a certain amount of time. And when you're rushing something quality, it gets cut because you want to get out as soon as you can. Human nature is to make as much money as you can in a short period as time. As a subcontractor, you want to be in and out. It's not your name there as such, you know. So that's where the issue is, and if they're driving that market price down, and you're up there, and then people asking why are you up there, and they never look at the bad work that they're doing. They just say, why are you so expensive? But you're not expensive. It's just that they're not playing a level playing field, and they're working at losses for a lot of time. Whereas you can't. Energy companies can swallow that loss up here over here with, I don't know, under heat pumps are losing £1 million a year, but they're getting £12 million a year in electrical.
Yeah,
you know,
they've got this many more.
Where it's just my business, I can't take a loss on heat pumps, so my business take a loss.
Yeah.
You can take a loss on solar, or your business take a loss. Whereas they can mask it with different. So that's where we're coming back to. Should really companies selling energy be able to provide things?
Yeah, the consuming.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not set up in the big talk of government. It's all about skills shortage, net zero, and all the things we've just spoken about don't help either of those two things. They don't. So there needs to be some drastic change at a government level for this to really.
All they've shown me is, look, we're decarbonising. On one hand, you've got to take the decarbonising, which needs to happen anyway. We need to do that, but at what cost? That's right. That's what the big answer is, and no one will be answer because they don't look like ugly truth for that.
Yeah, and it reflects, as there's these early adopters that go for it, and there's these companies that offer these cheap installs, like the £500 heat pump and all of that. But what happens is these systems don't work correctly. This customer comes out of the tariff and then ends up paying 3 times as what they used to do for the gas. That gets around, especially on social media. It's instant nowadays. That then it prevents others from actually deciding to go down the heat pump route, because they go, oh, do you hear about Mary's install? Oh, they had a right nightmare. They've ruined the house and it's costing them more money. But if they'd have got you to do it, it would have cost them probably more than the octopus, but it would be costing them to run like next to nothing, maybe a cop of like 4 or 5 rather than 2.5.
Getting paid £30 a year for all of your energy consumption.
That's where you have to have that problem with what we do have in UK is we have this short-term gain where we look and we're like, how much is it costing me today? Not that you're paying £1,000 today and it's going to last you 3 years. You're paying £4,000 today, you might get 20 years out of something.
How much is that per year?
We're short-sighted.
Yeah.
Like,
So
we don't
true.
want to spend anything now. But what we'd rather do is spend £1,000 now and it's £1,000 every 2 years to repair it, rather than spend £4,000 now and not spend anything for 10 years. You know, that's the problem. I think we need to change the whole concept behind it, like as eating, especially in Eat Punk, about what his eating system is, what it's doing, because it's more than just eating your house now when we're trying to decarbonise and we're trying to get good stuff in.
It's such an important part of a house.
Yeah. Every other place in the world, and you go to America, they've got plant rooms in basements. You go to Europe, they've got plant rooms. We want an airing cupboard. You want that in, and then we're not bothered about it until it breaks. It's only now that we're finding people more bothered about gas saving because price has gone up.
Yeah.
No one bothered about gas 2 years ago, and it was cheap as chips. You know, we've been running them inefficient for years because they've been cheap.
I had this
Like
conversation.
British Gas, and people have just been chucking them in.
Yeah.
Like if you actually regulated gas industry, right, everyone would be held accountable. I mean, I used to fit them inefficient. You know, we used to go in council and just take one out, put it in, not flush it, just put it out water. Companies that what we used to use, they just use servicing every year. They would just analyse it in gas check and just gone. No actual service on them because they were getting volume. You know, so there's accountability is gone all the way down the line.
Similarities of trades, it sounds just like EICRs, for example, our side of things.
Yeah, so like gas services.
It's mad.
What happens with that, again, is like the EICR thing for us, is the cost gets to such a rock bottom place that all of the good installers don't touch them, which means that then there is no good installer to choose from. And the danger of that, I don't think, from what I can see, that we're at that stage with solar, battery and heat pumps at the minute. I think, you know, we're not at the EICR level. But the risk is that people just go, the skilled electricians that are good at the job, or skilled plumbing heat engineers that are good at the job, go, you know what, it's just not worth me trying to compete. I can't, no customers want to pay it. You know, I'm just wasting all my time. I'm paying all this money for accreditations to do half the jobs. My jobs are halving every year. I'm just going to go back to doing other stuff where I don't have to compete with energy suppliers. And then the market is even more monopolised. But it's...
that from gas servicing, you've got big companies buying like housing estate contracts and then charging like £27 a gas service. So myself, from doing one, they start like £95. I'd have to do 4 of them to be able to earn what I'd do for just one.
Yeah.
So you're running around doing 10 a day, you're not then putting your name to a gas appliance is a big thing.
Yeah.
They just expect you to go around £27.50 or £22.50. Go around putting analyzer in, just doing that check, boiler breaks down. I know we got service last year. Well, it didn't. You got a safety check on it.
Yeah.
You know, and and that's just come from monopolising it and being people buying it and companies going out, which is probably the same as you are.
Same with the ICRs, isn't it? You do, I literally avoid them like the plague. And that was, you know, since going from Oval Electrical to Oval Renewables, I think I've only done one on my own property, like literally my own rental, and that's it. But I know you do a lot more of the testing and inspecting, man. You must see some horror stories where they've done the check.
The PRS, when that came out, maybe 2 years ago now, that drove, again, another angle on that, where you have companies setting up where they were doing the ICRs for 40, 50 quid each. And you have customers then asking you, you know, why are you charging 4, 5, 6
This was
times
the landlord obligation.
private rental sector where they have to have 5-year
Have
tests.
to have them. Yeah.
Yeah, so that drove a big wedge in there. It was already getting pretty bad, to be honest. But that was more housing association, local authority led, where they have set prices that are allowed to buy at that are dictated. They can't even really go to market and ask for a price. This is the thing they're allowed to spend because of the budgets they've got. But yeah, the private rental sector, that drove those prices down. You have companies doing the same, 4, 6, 10 even. He actually has in a day. It's absolutely crazy. And we've got a local letting agent we work with, and actually he said, you know, we've had a bad experience of something like that. Will you come in and take ours on at a proper rate? Because I think something had gone on with an insurer or something. So it's only when something goes wrong that people start to ask questions, and it'd be the same if something hasn't gone wrong.
They'd want to play cheapest price.
That's it, and they just carries on until something terrible happens. And then by that stage, it's too late. And it's sad when it's like that, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. But to spin this back to a positive, because we've spent a good chunk of this kind of moaning about it. I think it's an important conversation to have, because any consumers that are looking at this, there is value to Octopus, definitely. We've spent a lot of time bashing. There's definitely value. They've done some amazing things, and they've lifted the curtain on the industry, but don't hold them in a godly-like fashion that you're going to get the same level as, you know, of install that you would do with you, Damon, and other installers out there that are specialists in that have been doing this a long time, that pride themselves on those steps of design, installation, commissioning. And just do a bit more research. Don't just decide that you're going to go with Octopus because of the Octopus name, or, you know, any other energy providers or big outfits that, you know, you feel like you're safe with. Still do the due diligence of going through and talking to ex-customers. There's forums online that you can have a chat to Octopus, you know, it's heat pump customers, and, you know, Facebook is full of it, you know, like it or loathe it, it's full of those sort of groups. And just do that due diligence to make sure that it is going to be like what you think it's going to be like, and ask people like yourself as to your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, Damon's triggered a chain of thought in me at the start of this podcast to do with the energy side of things. And I'd say, as installers, my core aim for a consumer is to get their energy consumption as low as possible and their bills as low as possible. And I think you two guys would be the same. That one you was mentioning with I don't know if it's this podcast or the one before now, but that 30 quid repayment for a year's use. And then you think about the energy retailers, and is that their core interest for consumers to be out there not using energy? And they do install. That's something I've never thought about before. But where's their business model gone if all of their customers are reclaiming £30 a year and not paying anything? I never looked at it like that before.
Every customer that you've got, when you've got a customer that you've locked in for 10 years, but they're actually not paying any electricity, is that worth having? Is it worth having that customer? No, it's a really good point. And what is the motive? What is going on behind the scenes? And we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But that's been so interesting. Have you got anything else, Matt, that you want?
No, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I would just say about the training side of thing that Damon lent on a bit earlier in the conversation. Sounds like you've got an issue in training in your industry like we have in ours. And, you know, see an industry do something about that would be quite nice, because it shouldn't come down to individuals like Heat Geek and like something you're thinking of doing and what we do here. You know, that desperately needs sorting out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's, apart from, like, say, Kimbo and Adam, I don't think there's nothing in industry. I think if you take them two away from what we'd still be like, probably not know what your pumps are, you know, and be able to fit them. So I think you've got to, they've been kind of a catalyst for that, and then other people and journeys coming through. But you've got to say, is training's just another one you could talk on.
Yeah, it is.
Homes on seats, cost, and just generic in and out. It's probably one of the worst bits in the industry, especially for young people coming through.
Yeah, it's a shame. But we won't get into that, because we'll be sat here for a while. I just want to say a massive thanks for coming in and chatting with us as the first, it's 2 episodes now, but the first plumber, heat pump engineer, whatever we refer to you as. Hopefully we can get a few more people to step in and have a chat with a couple of electricians, because it's really interesting, and the audience are asking questions about all this. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to mention before you leave us?
No, just thanks for having me. I hope I don't get crucified so much in comments.
We've got plenty of sparkers to watch this, so we'll wait and see. But no, thank you from me. I've learnt so much. You've kind of like spun our heads to think about this a bit differently, and that's what the podcast is about. And it's exciting to have that experience, because up until now we've spoken to some really interesting people, but it's been kind of within our field, isn't it, Mark? Whereas this is massively outside that field, but through the conversation we've been able to draw a lot of parallels with the struggles and the kind of the aims of the systems that we fit and the systems that you fit to provide that property with, in our case energy, your case heat, for as low cost as possible. And we're trying to basically do the same thing, to provide that home with something for as little cost as possible, and try and battle against people that are maybe feeling that same obligation to do that. So I really appreciate your time and coming down and sitting with us. And I'd love to have you back on for a separate topic. In the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
I'm happy for it.
Yeah. Therefore,
Fair enough.
Thank you all for bearing with us on the course of this one. If you've got any comments around the conversation, as always, please do drop them in below. If you're from an energy retailer and you want to come and talk to us and set some things straight that we might have got wrong, this door is open to absolutely anyone. We relish those conversations, speaking personally, but I'm sure Sam thinks the same
Absolutely.
as well. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up to the episode. Don't forget to share it on social media and subscribe to the channel. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.